City of Watertown has a work session tonight, and the mayor is here to talk about a few things on the agenda. Sarah Pierce, good to see you.
Good to see you too, thank you.
Disinfectant Byproduct Project, the DBP is what this is. This is the first thing on the agenda. You may not know what that is, but an expensive project for the City of Watertown. $60 million to fix some things with the drinking water in the city because of some tests that have come back high. We've been talking about it for a while. There will be an update tonight. You have the engineer that's going to be coming. I guess give us a little bit of the synopsis of why the city is in this situation of needing to spend $60 million, which is the elephant in the room when it comes to expenses.
It certainly is. Certainly not a low price tag by any means, but as you explained, it has to do with water quality, and the levels of 2 of the disinfectant byproducts in our water have exceeded federal standards for some time. There have been some time periods where they've been okay and in compliance, but by and large, there are issues there with the disinfectant byproducts that we need to address to be in compliance with drinking water standards. So that's what this project is all about. As you mentioned, the price tag for the project is in the neighborhood of $60 million. So not cheap by any means, but we are trying to be aggressive in seeking out grants and any kind of financial support that can lessen the burden for taxpayers. And so tonight we'll be getting an update on the project. We're at about 60% of the design phase complete, so we'll have our engineer there, GHD, who's been working on it. We'll be able to ask questions and again get an overview of where things stand at this point.
The water comes in from the Black River, it's treated, and then it goes to residents in that treatment process, the chemicals that are put in, chlorine and such. And then when it's tested after that, that's where some of the things are testing too high, in which the government says, okay, you need to fix that, right? They're telling the city that you need to spend $60 million or spend money to fix it. The $60 million just happens to be the price tag. And it's tested every quarter, your water quality,
Correct.
right? So in the last few quarters, though, where the city has been testing high and in violation and needing the $60 million project, last few tests have come back clean, better, and not exceeding the limits. So as a lawmaker, you have to be sitting there wondering, okay, if we're not breaking the rules now, do we still have to go through with a massive, expensive project?
Correct, and that's one of the issues and questions that came up last time we had a work session, and an update on where we stand in the design of this project is, okay, you know, we're doing okay in certain periods of time when we're testing the water. Do we really need to spend the money on this project? I think there's always a chance that in the future the levels will exceed, and I think it's important that we address this now and not kick the can down the road, because I think when you talk about things that are important to a community, water quality is at the top of the list.
Sure. I guess, I don't know if I've asked this question before, but to fix a couple of things that are wrong in terms of the water quality, why is it such a massive project to fix that? Any idea? You're not the engineer. I know.
I'm certainly not the engineer by any means, but we're going on the advice of the experts and the engineers that this is what it's going to take to address the issues. We went into it knowing that the project was going to be expensive. I don't think we anticipated it would be $60 million. Of course, as time has gone on, it's become more expensive given inflation and the cost of things going up. So that, again, goes back to the point of not kicking the can down the road. The longer that we wait to do this, the more expensive it becomes.
Didn't it start out at 15 million or
Yes.
30 million? 15.
Yeah, it was around that. I believe it was 15 if I recall correctly.
How many years ago, do you remember?
Oh, a handful of years ago. I can't remember specifically.
Now, then it went to 30, now it's
yeah,
to 60.
So it just keeps going up.
You're looking for grant funding on that, and the state of New York has been handing out a lot of money to help communities with drinking water. Watertown has not gotten anything from the state. You also tried for a federal grant from what's called a DSIP, Defense Communities
Infrastructure Program.
Denied there as well. That's got to be disappointing. You hope you throw a dart and you hit a bullseye at some point.
Well, I mean, we're going to keep going after that DSIP grant. As you noted, we applied for it a couple times. We've been in close contact with our federal representatives, our Congresswoman our senators, just to, continue to underscore how important of a project that this is, not only to Watertown, but the surrounding communities and Fort Drum. You would think that that would make us an excellent candidate for that grant funding, but so far we haven't been successful, but we will continue to try.
That DSIP grant, just to remind people, helped build the new YMCA.
Correct.
That's the funding there, so the $9 million did help build the new YMCA a couple of years ago. And so the city has been trying for it, and some other projects have tried for it as well, and they haven't gotten it. A couple of hospitals have tried for that funding. All right, Snowtown USA, a popular event, but always relies on snow, right? In January, they're going to be doing some presentations tonight to update council. What do you know about Snowtown USA?
So Snowtown USA, the main event is going to go from January 23rd to the 26th. They're going to, weather depending, try and freeze the park circle again for skating. That tentatively will be January 20th through February 3rd. So tonight we'll just get an update on what they're planning for this year's festivities. We will hear from Dave Daly, who is an organizer of the Snowtown USA event, as well as our city staff who play an important role in making sure that everything runs smoothly. But this is one of those community events that everybody looks forward to during that time of year when we're getting cabin fever, want to get outside. So what better way to celebrate the weather that we have than with Snowtown USA? And I'll just give a shout out to all the organizers, especially Mr. Daly, year after year, making this event a tradition, whether it's the pancake breakfast at the Salvation Army or the snow sculptures. It's just one of those great events that we have had for a long time in the city of Watertown.
Not every year the weather will cooperate, and last year...
Sometimes it's too cold.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw
well, that's
that
true
a couple
too.
years
That's
ago.
true.
Kind of
Last year they
ironic.
didn't flood the area around the park, right? They didn't
No,
get to do it last year because of weather.
Correct.
Yeah, so anyway, that'll be a presentation tonight, and the organizers trying to get Snowtown USA, which used to be a huge event back in what, the 70s, 80s?
70s, 80s. I mean, I remember growing up in Watertown, going and seeing the snow sculptures, and when you're little, they seem that much more gargantuan, and
Sure.
it was awesome, and I think it's great that they're continuing that tradition for the young people.
Yeah, you have to use the assets that the city has, and one of them being our weather with,
Yes.
with the snow. You have to play to that, just as the Black River is another asset that many people
Right.
think that needs to be part of planning for Watertown. Christmas parade, I know we're talking winter here. The weather is getting that way in terms of fall and then winter, but the Christmas parade is another tradition, and I would expect that to be in the beginning of December. You have an
Coming
update
up
on that?
Yes, coming up on December 6th tonight at the work session. We will hear from the city staff members involved in organizing that event. A couple years ago, we changed the parade route. We used to have it going around part of Public Square. We changed it to go right down Washington Street, ending at City Hall, which has worked out well. So we will this year look, of course, for even more participants. If you're somebody out there watching who would like to be a part of it, whether you're an organization, a business, just get a hold of us at City Hall, and we'll make sure that you have the appropriate information. And
City Hall renovations happening right now. You have an update tonight on where that stands. I know you don't have too many details about that, but that's a big project.
It's a big project. There's a lot of needs when it comes to renovating City Hall and just keeping up with maintenance on the infrastructure there. The elevator was part of it. That's part of the reason you saw us meeting down in the courtroom. For a period of time, we had work on the elevator being done. We have some electrical work that's going to be done. I believe some work on the roof that's being done, and of course renovations to the courtroom.
And the funding for that came from, was that COVID money? Some of it?
I would have to check specifically. I believe part of it was the COVID
Part
funds.
of the reason I think that it moved forward, but
Yes.
could be wrong on that. And then a city manager update, which I've read, very descriptive. I mean, Ken Mix started this and doing a city manager update. The current city manager, Eric Wagner, giving quite a bit of information within that newsletter. That's got to be helpful to kind of have that not only for the community but for lawmakers. Is that to help with transparency, you think?
I think so. I think it's a great thing that we have continued. Actually, I believe that started with Rick Finn, the city manager,
Oh, really? Okay.
before Ken
Sure.
Mix. And it went out at the time bi-weekly. To this edition of it goes out once a month, and it just provides an overview to the community, but to lawmakers as well, of what the various city departments are up to. So if people take a look at it, it's available on the City of Watertown website. I always post it on my social media as well, but they can look through and see what every city department has been working on, and it's just a great way to find out about things that are either ongoing, coming up, whether that be community events or different things that people need to be aware of as far as construction in the city. It's really kind of a one-stop shop for everything that you might want to know when it comes to what the city of Watertown is up to.
Last question. Our segment on Friday of last week, Blast from the Past, did you happen to see it with the report that Brian Ashley did?
I did not.
So it was a report on some soldiers up at Fort Drum doing an expansion for the zoo as they were unearthing and changing some things around up in Thompson Park. They ended up finding this old fountain that used to stand in downtown Watertown. And the story talked to Ken Mix, that's why I'm remembering it, and as he was a planner, and talked about the history of it. They remember tearing it down from downtown and putting it up in the park, but it was buried. Soldiers found it. Brian Ashley did the story about, could it come back? Or and so if you haven't heard of the story, but we had some people wondering whatever happened to the remains of that fountain, because they were hoping to be able to put it back together and maybe put it someplace downtown. But if you learn anything on that, let us know.
Yeah, I did have somebody mention that to me a while back. Unclear as to where that fountain is, but I think it'd be great if we could locate it and find a use for it.
I mean, there had to be a reason that they didn't put. It could have been money, but there had to be a reason as to why it didn't get put back together. And it was marble, I believe, is what Ken said in that update or in that story. So if you learn anything, that would be interesting. That there's, and I even don't know where it's stored now, if it's with DPW or whatever, but interesting stuff.
I'll look into it.
So that'll be good. All right, Sarah Pierce, thanks for the update.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.